Hi, Global Health students and Dr. Ajike. Please don't mind the thunder if you hear any. I'm down in Florida and it's rainy season, so rain rolls through every once in a while and we get some pretty good thunderstorms down here. I'm Becky Nunzio, and the topic that I chose to focus on is how global warming and climate change creates droughts and the impacts of droughts on the environment, people, and the wildlife. In recent years, there have been global crises that can be related to climate change. According to NASA, as the global climate continues to change, our planet will see rising temperatures, change in precipitation, stronger and more intense hurricanes, rising sea levels, and the melting of the glaciers and ice caps, and more droughts and heat waves. Droughts and heat waves will occur more frequently and will be more intense and longer lasting. These climate changes can be attributed to global warming. According to the U.S. Department of the Interior, global warming refers to the rise in global temperatures due mainly to the increasing concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Rising temperatures in the atmosphere impact air temperature and precipitation values. Air temperature increases create aridity and drought conditions. So I know we've all heard the term the greenhouse effect. So what really is the greenhouse effect? Simply, it's when infrared radiation gets trapped in the Earth's atmosphere. This occurs normally. That radiation then warms the atmosphere of the Earth. This wouldn't be an issue if human activity wasn't adding to the already natural radiation from the sun. Burning of fossil fuels creates carbon dioxide emissions, and then that traps more radiation in our atmosphere. This then creates our atmosphere and surface temperatures to rise. It creates warmer, drier conditions which drive drought. Drought is a period of dryness, especially when prolonged, specifically one that causes extensive damage to crops or prevents their successful growth. Some of the other impacts of drought are water shortages, crop damage, desertification of soil, reduced air quality, famine, insect swarms, and wildfires. In 2020, we all watched the devastation in Australia due to wild brush fires. Concurrently, we also saw California wildfires burn out of control. But these were not the only wildfires that occurred. Nearly every continent saw wildfire activity in 2020. Droughts have occurred throughout history. Drought happenings have been recorded in North America since the 1900s, but that's only because that's when record keeping began. Droughts were responsible for destroying cultures dating back 9,500 years. According to Williams and other authors, mega drought events have been recorded as far back as 850 CE in North America. Even though droughts are part of a seeming ongoing cycle, research shows that they're getting worse, and they impact areas and people that are already at risk. Studies show that even areas that are typically considered wet show signs of drying. The areas that are hardest hit are low and middle income countries in West and Northern Africa and Southern Asia. As I said before, the Australian bushfires were heartbreaking and devastating to watch. Over 3 billion animals died, and many more lost their habitat and homes. Entire species are said to have been wiped out. People lost their homes and livelihoods, and there was billions of dollars of economic damage. Australia wasn't the only wildfires. Tourists were stranded by fires in the Canary Islands. Areas around Chernobyl were shut down due to forest fires for fear of nuclear activity occurring. Scotland, Poland, and Turkey saw heat waves causing forest fires. Arizona and California had forced evacuations. Greece and Turkey saw entire villages that were engulfed and destroyed by flames. Ooh, there's that thunder. Eastern China and India had wildfires, and the Pantanal wetlands in Brazil burned at the fastest rate since record keeping began. Fire activity, loss, and devastation was reported across the globe in 2020. Drought reached nearly every continent. 2 billion people faced water shortages, nearly 1 billion people faced displacement, and millions, if not billions, faced food shortages. Global warming induced vapor changes will likely lead to drier future in all areas and climates of the world, but particularly will impact areas like Eastern Asia and Northern Africa. So even wetter areas will become drier, like the wetlands of Brazil. Drought hazards will impact nearly every continent, as we saw in 2020. Wildfire activity will increase with the potential for what scientists are calling fire regimes, or areas of increased and continued fire activity. So the current research is pretty bleak if we don't do something to impact change. Research is clear that drought activity is increasing. Many researchers recommend better and varied methods of assessing drought. The traditional means was just to use the standard precipitation index, and I've included a picture here of what the standard precipitation index is. But scientists have been using additional drought indexes, so they're using the aridity index, average temperatures, and evaporation indexes too. Williams and others warn that many common indicators of drought do not account for the increase in carbon dioxide values that have been created by greenhouse effect, which will further exacerbate droughts and wildfires. Predictably, food and water shortages occur due to drought, but research has shown impact of drought on agriculture is also the loss of labor. The changing climate in certain regions has been a motivating factor for people to migrate to other areas with more kind climates, you could say. The drought conditions are making it difficult for people, and this is mostly female agriculture workers, to earn sufficient income and due to the agriculture shortages by the changing climate. So crop shortages are putting an economic burden on these women agriculture workers, and due to this, people in the developing world are seeking other areas to live and opting to move from their rural homes to more urban settings. So drought, crop loss, combined with the loss of agricultural labor, increases food shortages throughout the world. So the most at-risk population is young children, as we've read over and over throughout this course. They face malnutrition, disease, and death. But the unseen issue with climate change is that research shows that children and adolescents throughout the world are facing emotional and mental health issues due to concerns over climate change. In a study conducted by Sanson and others, young people overwhelmingly felt that climate change was not being taken seriously enough. Almost 90%, that's crazy, worried often about the future of the environment, and they reported feeling helpless and powerless. As I've mentioned before, water shortage and crop damage isn't the only peril of drought. Wildfires are too. Studies have shown a positive relationship between months of excessive dryness and forest fires. There are many causes for wildfires, human activity being one of them. However, even in situations where human activity caused the fire, drought exacerbates the effects of that fire. So the inherent increase in temperatures, increased aridity, lack of precipitation, and water shortages make that forest fire even harder to contain, even if it was caused by human negligence, human intent, or say like a lightning strike. Drought-like conditions make it nearly impossible to contain those fires. So with what all the research is showing us, and the scientific discussions obviously talk about how we need to slow the global temperature rise. Williams and other, Al-Kanini and El-Haddad, and Keeley and Seifert all denote that one of the largest parts of the drought problem is that drought conditions tend to last for several years. Some indicate instances of what they're calling mega drought that occur every 19 years. Furthermore, Al-Kanini and El-Haddad found a direct correlation between drought and increasing temperatures. This suggests that slowing the global temperature increase could help to reduce drought occurrences. A goal that was put forth by the Paris Exchange was to reduce the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees, because currently we're on trend to increase by 3 degrees. Nearly all of the articles I looked at also emphasized the need for better monitoring and warning systems. Predictions of drought may not be able to prevent the drought, right? But they could help governments and aid organizations prepare for food shortages that are likely to occur. By properly forecasting and anticipating areas that may face drought and lowered rainfall, disaster relief could be mobilized and food aid could be implemented in a more efficient and timely manner. Studies also indicate that droughts and the increase in wildfires unfortunately feed one another. It's kind of cyclical. Drought conditions drive forest fires and brush activity, and then forest fires and brush activity, brush burning, emit massive levels of carbon dioxide, which is one of the leading causes of global warming. So human activity already creates carbon dioxide emissions, but areas with fire activity now face the increased carbon dioxide emissions from burned fuel, like the forest and the brush, which increases the propensity for additional fires. So this is like what I talked about when I was talking about those fire regimes. These areas will just continue to burn because of this cyclical problem of drought drives forest fire drives drought. So the recommendations are clear, right? Global leaders have to work together to reduce our carbon footprint and our dependency on fossil fuels. They have to make greener energy an immediate priority. This will help meet the second recommendation, which is to lower the temperature warming. So to reduce it from 3 degrees to 1.5 degrees in order to slow global warming. And last but not least, better monitoring systems to predict drought so governments and aid organizations can prepare to combat food and water shortages and save lives. I thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I'm sorry about the thunder. It's not as scary as it sounds. I hope I had a great semester with y'all, and I hope to see you in future courses. Enjoy your summer, everybody. Bye.